Hello and welcome to this session on working remotely and using online content from Maynooth University Library, the basics. My name is Helen Farrell and I'm the Academic Engagement Librarian with Maynooth University Library. So let's have a look and see what we're going to be covering in today's session. I'm going to show you some effective search strategies to find this online content, strategies that will work for the library catalogue, Google Scholar and some databases and e-journals that you use. As part of this, we're going to look at ways to speed up your searching and your information retrieval, and also increase the relevance of what you search for, so your results take you straight to what you need. I'm going to point out some helpful features that you should look out for when you're using different databases and e-journals, and I'm going to cover linking to online material, to full text material available from Maynooth University Library in order to develop your resource lists or communicate with your class. So 3 things from this session that you should take away. Always start your search for information by logging into off-campus access on the library homepage first. If you don't and you run a search, you're only getting a small subset of what you truly have full text access to. So log into off-campus access, then run your search. If there's an advanced search option within a database or electronic journal, always use it over the basic search. And use all the filters that are available to you to refine the date range, the language, the subject, the topics, etc. It will increase the relevance and decrease the amount of time that you spend on searching. And if you're using a phrase, always put them within quotes. So the example I have on screen there is total quality management. If you didn't enclose that phrase in a quote, the database or electronic journal would go off and find documents that mention total anywhere, or any documents that mention quality, etc. So you want to force it just to find that phrase. That will immediately increase the relevance of your search results, no matter what you're using. So what's the range of online content available from us at Maynooth University Library? You can see on screen that we provide access to over 700,000 e-journal titles alone, 200 databases and over 500,000 ebooks. They're full-text ebooks online. Within LibrarySearch as a whole, there's over 775 million entries, so an enormous amount of material on every topic that you could want. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to download this presentation with all the live links within it. And I'm just going to reference what I have on screen, which is a direct link to the off-campus access, a link to all of the subject guides, a link directly to journal search or browsing the A to Z of databases, but these are also available on the library homepage. I've also provided you with a link to library support, where you can log any issues that you might experience at any point in using online content, or you can contact us using the live library chat box on the home page for an instant response when the library is staffed. I'm going to go through a live demo of some of the things that I've covered so far in a minute or two, but I'm just going to summarise some of the effective search strategies that you can use in LibrarySearch. I would recommend the advanced search page because it has a range of options for increasing the relevance of your search. It also supports phrase searching, and as we have already covered, you enclose a phrase within quotes. You can also filter your results by full text online if you want to link to material that has access to it 24/7 for your students. We also provide access to some open access material, and that can be useful if you are delivering any presentations or doing research with non-MU students or colleagues. Also on the advanced search page, you might notice there's a whole load of pre-filled date options and other ways of filtering your results. So we're going to go through these now. So now I'm at the library homepage, and I'm going to show you some of the things we've just mentioned in the previous slides. So scroll down on the library homepage, keep your eye on the left-hand side of the screen, and we're going to navigate down to off-campus access. So this is the first thing that you should do. You can see my username is pre-filled, and we're going to log in. And you can see now it's confirmed I've logged in to off-campus access, and we're going to use LibrarySearch. So in this case, I want to show you what will happen if you don't use quotes. So let's run a search for business cases without quotes. We want to see the number of results here. So there's 28 million documents, electronic journal, articles, ebooks, or other resources that mention business or cases. If I enclose this phrase in a quote, we should see a big reduction in the number of results. And you can see immediately that's cut that down to 451,000 results. So it's a huge drop. And when you're running your search, if you do this and you combine it with some refining options, so you can, for example, force LibrarySearch to only return things that are full text online. You can see me clicking these options in the left-hand side. Maybe you just want scholarly and peer-reviewed material. And perhaps you only want journal articles. And then using the drag and drop date slider, I can say from 2005 to present day. And you can see each time I'm doing this, my results are reducing. Still a huge amount of results there that mention business cases. So it's such a broad phrase, you're going to get an enormous amount of results. So 35,000, it's way too large a set to work with. So there has to be better ways to find exactly what you're looking for. So the better way would be to go to the advanced search page. So I'm going to show you that now. You can see at the top of the screen, I'm hovering over the advanced link, and you can see that it has saved all the details of the first search that we did. So it's got business cases and the different limits, the date limits, etc. I'm going to scroll down a little bit and I'm going to clear this form and start afresh. We'll run a different search this time. I'm going to look for the phrase digital humanities, and I had typed it previously, so there it is. And I'm going to force LibrarySearch to only return results that have digital humanities mentioned in the title. And I'm also going to specify that I only want results that have a designated subject term of history. And I also want it from the last 12 months. So this is quite a focused search. And then scroll down a little and hit the search button. And yeah, as you can see, we've only got 7 results for this. So say, for example, you want to choose some of this material and you would like to share it with your class. If you want to share the reference to books and let your students go and collect it, you can link here. The first little icon is a permanent link, and it will bring your students to this information here on screen. If any of the material is full text online, I'm just going to refine the search just to see is it online material. And 5 results are. Then it makes really good sense to provide a link direct to the actual content rather than a link to this information. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Say you like the references, the results on the screen as they are at the moment, and you'd like to add them to your required reading for the week. So you start adding these, and you can see they're getting added to the little folder up here, saved items. So you've now added 3 items to your saved items folder. I'm going to format how they look to Chicago style, referencing style. And you can see the system has done that for you. You can also actually export it to Endnote, directly to Endnote, or to RefWorks, Zotero, or whatever reference management software you use. There's also a really fast way to get the information on screen into Moodle, and I'm going to show you that now. So if you just select and copy, and just make sure you've got all the links. So I've just selected the references and the links. I press Ctrl and C. I can then bring this directly into Moodle, and those links will work to bring your students to the off-campus access page if they are off-campus, and it will bring them direct to the full text material rather than back to LibrarySearch. I'll show you that now. So with those references and links copied, We're now going to take a look at bringing that into Moodle for your students and enabling them to work off campus and access the full text of articles and book chapters. So make sure that you've got your editing on in Moodle. I've got some examples for required reading for different weeks. You might have your own method, you might have an overall reading list, or you may divide up your readings by weeks or by semesters. So let's just have a look and see some of those in operation before we paste the existing references in. So you can see under required readings of week 4, let's just open the first link so you can see what your students will encounter. So you can see it's brought you straight in to the full text of the article, which is really fantastic for those students who are working off campus. So now we're going to create required readings for week 5. I'm just going to show you how to do that. So type in the new section head. And then we're going to edit the section. And you can see it opens up in a new window. And then all I'm going to do is click once within the summary box and do Control V. And you can see immediately the references that we selected and the links, and we copied them from LibrarySearch. They've come straight in, and you can actually see that the links are active here. So I'm just going to hover over this for a second. Because the links are in a different colour, so blue, the system, Moodle, is actually recognising this as a link. Now, if you don't see any difference in the link text, there is the possibility that you might have to edit it by adding a space or by inserting a link manually. So that means finding the digital object identifier, the permalink, the stable link, whatever the link is called, and inserting it here and designating it as a link in Moodle. But by using the feature in LibrarySearch that's built in that allows you to select the references that you want to share with your students and copying the links from that and bringing them into Moodle, that access to the full text at a deep level is in operation for your students, and you usually don't have to worry anymore about that working correctly. So now we're going to save our changes. And you can see that our readings have been added. I'm going to turn editing off and we'll just take a quick look and make sure that what you've brought in is correct. You can see week 4 is open there, so I'm going to close it. And now we're going to open week 5, which is what you've just brought in. And you can see there are your 3 references. I'm going to check the third one just to make sure that everything is as we expect. And yes, this is fantastic. You've got the full text. I'm just going to hover over that there. So your students get brought straight in. If they're not logged into off campus, they will just get prompted to log in, and then they'll get brought straight to this point too. So you can see how useful it is and how easy it is to build a resource list or readings per week. So far in this session, we've gathered references and links to files to full text material using LibrarySearch, available from the MU library. However, there's some faculty who prefer to do their searches through Google Scholar. That's fine, but I just want to run through some of the different points if you use Google Scholar. In this presentation, which you can download afterwards with live links, you need to use the advanced search option. This is really important in Google Scholar. Otherwise you'll get a huge level of irrelevance unless you're looking for a very specific journal title or author. Google Scholar actually has phrase searching built in. So earlier in this session we looked at phrase searching in some of the databases and library catalogues where you put your phrase within quotes. However, you don't need to do that in Google Scholar, and probably one of the reasons that it appeals to people is that the Boolean logic, which is and, using and, or not in your search string, it's kind of built into the interface in Google Scholar. Google Scholar has all the other features that you'd expect within a database. You can specify a date range, you can look for authors, you can specify a journal title. Do you think there's any advantage of using Google Scholar over a library catalogue? Does it get you more results? It actually doesn't. But I suppose the familiarity with the interface works for some faculty, and we recognise that. I've also provided a link to some common Google tips if you use Google Scholar a lot. So now I'm going to just take you quickly through a short demo of using Google Scholar to locate information and download those references. So here we are in Google Scholar, and let's take a look and see how it operates. So scroll over to the little 3-line symbol here, click it open, and we're going to scroll down to Advanced Search. And you can see that you're given a number of options. You can find all of the words in the first line, or find the exact phrase, or at least one of the words, or you can find results without the words. You can also specify where the words occur, so they can be anywhere in the article for a slightly less specific search, or in the title of the article for a really specific search. So I'm going to replicate the search that we already ran in the library catalogue, and let's see the kind of results that you get here. So we had chosen digital humanities as a phrase. Now we don't need to use the quotation signs like you would in some of the databases or in LibrarySearch, because Google has already done that for us. We also searched for history as a subject, so we're going to put in all the words as history, but there's no way of specifying that you only want results from the subject category history, which is a shame really. We also specified more recent articles, so we'll choose from 2020 onwards, and we're now going to run that search. So we've got 13,800 results. Now this compares against a much smaller, more highly relevant set of search results from the library catalogue, altogether more usable. This isn't really. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate back and make it much more specific. I'm saying I want the phrase digital humanities and the mention of history in the title of the article. So this should cut down on the results. Yes, it has. It's brought us down to 46 results. However, I'm not really seeing full text links in the right hand side. Normally you'd see links here. So it's not as, I don't think it's as useful as searching using LibrarySearch. Now, as I scroll down, I'm sure there are going to be some links. So let's have a look. Yeah. Okay, so you can see in the Journal of Chinese History, there's a PDF available via cambridge.org, Digital Humanities and the History of Philosophy. There's some coverage, but it's not fantastic. It's really not the same kind of result that you're getting in LibrarySearch. However, I'm just going to pick a few of these. So we're going to click Save, and we create a new, so we'll say reading list. Oops. And I'm going to save the next one into reading list. So this is you can imagine if you're building up your references for your reading list. We've chosen to add 3 references to the feature My Library in Google Search, and these references are going to form the basis of our pretend reading list. So let's see how Google Scholar behaves when we try and download the articles. Okay, so we go to the top right hand side and we open My Library. And you can see that the 3 references that you chose are all within this folder. Now you can cite them individually, so I'm just going to show you what that looks like. Say for example you only want to download one reference. You have a number of pre-formatted options there, MLA, APA, Chicago, etc. Or you can bring your reference straight into whatever reference management software you use, such as Endnote. However, if you're pretty happy with all of the references that you're chosen and you want to bring all of those references into a reading list or into some kind of required reading, we can export all of them. So I've just hovered over that feature, and for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use my Endnote account. So I'm clicking on Endnote, and it brings all my citations into this little file here. If I click the citations open, you see it launches Endnote. And you can see those references are brought in, and from this point I can add them to a group, and from there on I can produce my reading list or my bibliography, whichever you are doing. There's a number of things that you can do at this point within Endnote that are going to be useful for developing your reading list for your students. So we've brought those 3 references from Google Scholar straight into Endnote, and now we are going to see if there's any full text available for these. So you can see the icon that I'm hovering over, it's a little search icon, and we can search the web for full text documents, and they will then attach themselves to the relevant references. So I'm going to press that button. It can take a little while, so we just see what it finds. Unfortunately, no full text was found, and you can actually see that Endnote will tell you that under the Find Full Text, and it says for those 3 references, you can see as my cursor circles it here on the left hand side, for those 3 references there was no full text found. So let's move on and add those references to a new group, and we're going to call the group Reading List. So we pretend we're creating a reading list for your module. I'm going to right click on the My Groups tab, and I'm going to left click Create Group, and you can see it's defaulted to New Group. So I'm going to call this Reading List, and we're going to move the 3 references into that Reading List folder. So it's really quite easy. You click on the first reference and you select all 3, and then you use your mouse to drag it straight over to Reading List, and you can see those 3 references have now moved from unfiled straight into the reading list. But you probably want to add these references to a Word document or something similar that you can bring in to Moodle and use. So again, we're just going to highlight the references that we're interested in, and then we're going to open Word. Open a blank Word document, and within Word you can open the Endnote 20 tab. If you scroll over the Insert Citation tab and click the drop down arrow, we're going to insert the selected citations. So we'd selected those citations within Endnote 20, and now we're going to bring them in here. And there you go. So popped straight in from Endnote 20, you've got a bibliography, got a reading list, and you can now copy and paste that into Moodle or bring that document into Moodle. Okay, so we've covered the basics of using Google Scholar to work remotely. Things like locating material, selecting it, choosing the citations, bringing those citations into Endnote, and even looking at how you might be able to share those references and citations with your students, finding full text for them and developing a reading list in Word. But it's far more complex than using LibrarySearch with the links direct to the full text material. There's far fewer steps. So just to mention some databases and e-journals that are obviously not Google Scholar and not LibrarySearch, you're going to encounter many different interfaces. The bigger ones will have some standardized user interfaces with standard searching features, especially providers like ProQuest and Gale. You probably get used to seeing the same kind of user interface no matter what database you're using that comes from them. So my advice is always to use the advanced search features and filters available to you to speed up your retrieval time and increase the relevance of what you're looking for. Also, a reminder just to always use the phrase searching option if available, but some of the more specialised and smaller electronic journal title providers don't necessarily support phrase searching within quotes. It's all about trying out different search options, different search features, and seeing what works for you. We've seen how LibrarySearch offers you options to refine your search. So when you get a search set, a set of results, you can then further limit them to full text online, which is obviously great for remote working. And by type of content, you've got several different date options. And we saw all of this within the live demos. Google Scholar has fewer options for refining your search. There are still some date options and some relevance and date sorting features. However, I don't find them that intuitive, and I think you're subject to the Google algorithm. And then across the board, there's different options depending on what platform you're using, if you're using other databases and e-journals, but most will give you some ability to refine your search. And then just to cover some of the helpful features, I know we've spoken about some of these already, but there's cited by and cites information in terms of academic journal articles. There is information on metrics and altmetrics. There's a new feature called Map It, which is very useful for physical books, and it actually shows you, it gives you a little pin within a map of the library, the physical shelf, and lots of information if you actually want to find the book on the shelf. There's a new feature that is a peer review icon that you should look out for if that's something you're interested in. And in terms of helpful features within Google Scholar, I love the fact that if you get a good search result and it's highly relevant, you can immediately set up an alert. So you get alerts, email alerts from Google Scholar anytime new information is added to Google Scholar. And across the board, databases and e-journals, there's a variety of lots of different features. Some will offer you the ability to save your search as an alert. Some will give you breadcrumb trails of citation information, like cited by, and some will give you table of contents alerts, which is can be a very handy feature to have. So we saw that by choosing your results, usually by ticking them or saving them, formatting them to your required reference style and copying this information into a Word file or straight into Moodle is a very fast way to develop your resource list or required readings on a weekly or semester basis. If you do use reference management software frequently, RefWorks, the basic version, is available with LibrarySearch. Endnote 20 is now available on Apps Anywhere with Maynooth University. And you could also download RIS files and import them into your reference management software of choice. My colleague Kieran Quinn, the Research Support Librarian, is available to give you one-to-one or small group training on reference management software. I do want to mention stable links before I go. These are also called permalinks, or you might have seen them described as a DOI, which is the Digital Object Identifier. When providing links to full text material, like articles or journal chapters, database providers will name the link in a different way. So sometimes it's called a stable link. It can even be called a remote access URL, as in JSTOR would list their permalinks in this way. So whatever the link is called, this type of link should be used for your students. So if you're providing that link to your students, they would be prompted to log into off-campus access and then get brought straight to the full text. You can also copy these kind of DOI, permalink, or remote access URLs straight into a Word document, or you can add them to whatever reference management software that you're using. And this summary slide will just go through creating a new section or a new document within Moodle and just gives you the basic details of that. So then just to sum up, my advice is always log into off-campus access first before searching LibrarySearch. Use all the available advanced search features and filters to increase your relevance, and always put quotes around phrases unless you're in Google Scholar and it is a pre-formatted field. Be aware of the differences in where you're searching and the strengths and weaknesses within different products, different databases. Always look for stable links, also called permalinks, DOIs or remote login links when you're developing your resource lists or working remotely and sharing that information. I have provided my email, so if you have any specific queries, I'd be really happy to help you, and I hope this gives you some useful tips in terms of working remotely in Maynooth University. Thank you.